So let me get this straight. USC wins by 60, and they drop 2 spots in the others receiving votes category portion of the coaches poll. Yeah, that makes absolutely 0 sense.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Hulkin, and thank you. Thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network your first listen every single day. Whether you are watching this show on YouTube, pick your platform, download this podcast. This show is always going to be free. This show with me is always going to appreciate your support. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com and you're going to get 50% off your first year. It's just a bunch of coffee gophers. You know, they're playing the role of voting coach, but what they're doing is they're a bunch of haters. There's no other way to figure this out. I have racked my brain trying to understand the logic, the common sense, or the lack thereof. There is none. Explain this to me. Like I said, USC wins their game 73-13, 60-point margin of victory. And I get it. It was the competition level wasn't usually what USC usually does, not a conference. They stepped down. They played an FBS team, Missouri State, first year at the FBS level. Nevertheless, that's what USC was playing. So we know that coaches don't vote in these polls. It's a bunch of assistant, associate ADs. It's the people who run and get coffee for the assistant coach. It's just somebody named Joe, for all we know. Somebody named Jill, for all we know. In the first coaches poll, USC had, I think it was 116 votes, and they were still in the others receiving votes category, ranked number 29. Now in the second week of the poll, after their victory, they only got 40 votes. What? Make it make sense, please. And here's the other part of this equation. This poll, the way it's compiled, apparently there are 11 or 12 teams just from the SEC alone that are ranked higher. Yeah. Again, what? Let me give you some examples. Did anybody watch Oklahoma struggle? They played Eastern Illinois. They won. They were ranked in the poll. They didn't drop. In fact, they actually moved up. They moved up despite needing 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter just to kind of pull away and win that game against the Illinois State team. And yet they move up in the poll. USC, what? Did I anticipate USC jumping into the top 25? If I'm being honest, no, I didn't. I was hopeful, but I did anticipate them at least moving up to number 26, not dropping 2 spots after winning by 60 points. They are literally the 31st best team in the country, according to the people who sent in their votes. And USC did something that changed a lot of minds and said, well, we're not even going to vote for you anymore. So for all of you folks who like to say, just keep winning and everything will take care of itself. Well, that's a really nice, rational way of looking at things. It's a nice way to cope with the situation. It does make a difference. The longer USC remains out on the outside looking in, the harder it gets, to leapfrog those teams that are ahead of you. I mean, USC went into the regular season ranked, 4th among the teams that was on the outside looking in. Like I said, ranked number 29. Oklahoma, Missouri, Louisville were the 3 teams ahead of them. Oklahoma is now ranked. They're in the top 25. Following a dominant win, again, I'm just trying to figure out how USC falls in that poll. down to number 31. They're tied with Auburn. Auburn beat Baylor in Waco, Texas in their first game of the season. So like I said, USC had 116 votes. Now they got 41. I want to make sure I'm accurate with that number. I just don't get it. Somebody explain it to me. Use crayons. Have AI come up with some sort of rational explanation. Kansas State, Boise State, they dropped out of the poll. Florida State replaced them. They earned it. They beat an Alabama team. Maybe it's not a great Alabama team, but they beat Alabama. How did Utah jump ahead of USC after beating a really, really, really bad UCLA? Tulane moved ahead of USC. They beat Northwestern. The only team worse than Northwestern in the big conference right now is UCLA. Yet everybody else is getting credit for their wins. I just don't get it. But I'm going to take this opportunity to say this is just another example of I told you so. I told you so. If you're an everyday listener, viewer of this show, then you better know how much of a proponent I am of the strength of schedule argument. I'm a firm believer that strength of schedule matters. I've been literally preaching it from the rooftops. I've been saying, look, strength of schedule is going to matter, especially with the playoff selection committee. And it's going to start this year. And it's because of what happened last year, how Alabama got left out of that 12-team field. Forget the fact that they were 9-3. Forget the fact of the teams they lost to. But this is exactly why the SEC is going to move to a 9-game conference schedule because of what happened last year. And they're also making the mandate that you've got everyone in their conference has to play at least one Power 4 conference team. So now they're going to be playing 10 P4 type of games, Power 4 games. 9 in conference, at least one out of conference. Welcome to the party, guys. So I have to believe this is why there are 12 teams, 11 teams that are ranked ahead of USC. They need to keep up the appearance that those are tough games because, this is going to be the reason. Well, because we play in the SEC and so is ranked. That's why. We know that's just a bunch of BS, but that's their story. They're sticking with it. If you need more proof that this is the new narrative and it's going to be adhered to, let's just look what happened this past week. Okay, Alabama, they fell from number 8 to I think number 20 after getting their butts handed to them by not a really good Florida State team. And let me remind everybody, if we're talking about teams that are getting the benefit of the doubt, Alabama has lost 5 out of their last 9 games. These are teams that I have zero issue with them staying in the top 10. Texas lost. They dropped down to number 6. Clemson lost. They dropped down to number 8. Notre Dame lost. They were 6. They dropped down to number 9. Here's the reason why I'm okay with it. Because they took the risk. They played marquee games right out of the box, just like USC did last year against LSU. LSU followed it up. They went into Clemson. They won. Each of those losses were tight games against quality opponents. This is the argument that teams are going to be rewarded for playing that type of schedule. And this is why I am constantly telling people, USC playing these, watering down their out of conference, it's not going to help. So if USC isn't going to get credit for beating a team by 60, a team they should beat by 60, how much credit are they going to get when they put a beat down on Georgia Southern this coming weekend? I mean, the Eagles, they're already 0-1. Fresno State took them behind the woodshed. Now, this goes back to it does matter where you start in the polls. Before USC can take on number 12, Illinois, number 13, Michigan, who plays at Oklahoma this coming weekend. You got number 9 Notre Dame on the schedule down the line. Oregon's number 5 right now. They moved up in the poll. They beat an FCS team. Make it make sense, people. So before USC gets to play any of those teams, those are their resume games. USC has to play at Purdue. They're going to host Michigan State. I mean, theoretically, USC will be 4-0 and maybe what? Maybe number 20 in the country if they're fortunate. I mean, they're going backwards in the coaches poll. They remain status quo in the AP. They held ground. They held serve. I mean, what happens if Illinois loses at Duke this weekend? Where do they fall? And let's say they do win. What happens if they lose at Indiana the week after? There's a lot going on here. So it matters. It does matter where you start in the poll. Okay, here's another example. What happens if Michigan loses to Oklahoma this weekend? Very good chance it will happen. It's on the road. You've got a freshman quarterback. I mean, how far do they fall? How does that affect USC when they play, when they get to LA? Don't forget, Michigan also plays Nebraska in Lincoln before they come to LA. So memo, just a quick memo to all you who think the path of least resistance is the way to schedule. Nope, not the case. I don't say things just to say things. Okay? I follow trends. When somebody tells you what they are, who they are, what they want to do, listen to them. Okay, you were starting to see the signs from the SEC that they were moving in this direction. Look at their future out-of-conference schedules. Meanwhile, you got USC playing Missouri State. Should have been playing Ole Miss. You're playing Georgia Southern. I'm fine with that. Ole Miss, Georgia Southern, Notre Dame. Give me that type of out-of-conference schedule every single year. And let's not pretend like Ole Miss is a national championship contender. They've been better, but they choke in their big games. They have been. All right, that's all. I just need to. There are haters out there. There's no reason why USC should have dropped in the poll. I mean, explain it to me. How did it happen? If it happens again after this weekend, you might have to hold me back. That's all I'm going to say. I've got two more segments to go on the show. USC resumed practice Tuesday. Got some notes and quotes. And then the third segment, I've got a little bit of recruiting news, so stick around. Lots of information coming up. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive a car. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. You can feel it the moment you get behind the wheel, the smooth handling, the intuitive controls, and standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. So whether it's a quick drive to practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda makes even everyday drives feel special. It's the small details that make the big plays. And just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. So the team was back at practice Tuesday, full pads, and same color coordination. Offense wearing Cardinal, defense wearing their white jerseys. That's what happens when you play at home. When they go on the road the following week to Purdue, the guys will swap jerseys. One thing I can tell you, Jakeem Stewart, he lost his walking boot. He's pretty excited. He's ready to play. I anticipate him playing on Saturday. Unless he has a setback, he's playing, right? He will be in that lineup at some point, cracking skulls, trying to get his first college sack, his first TFL as a member of the Trojans. So, I mean, that was really the only player that I think everyone was wondering about. USC came out of that first game relatively clean, not too many injuries that we have to be concerned with. I know I think I talked about it on yesterday's episode. Prince Strawn, he tweaked an ankle in that game, but it didn't seem to really affect him. He was able to, continue playing in that game. So he should be available as well. Excuse me. The other guys that did not play, guys like Chasen Johnson, cornerback, I think he'll be available. The kicker, Caden Chittenden, I don't know. He's suiting up for practice. I just don't know if he'll be available. And then Anthony Beavers was also back in uniform for practice. He did not play Saturday against Missouri State. So this week, we know USC's getting ready for Clay Helton, Georgia Southern Eagles. And Coach Clay, he spoke with the media. He jumped on Zoom. And right now his team is hanging out in Oxnard this week. They're staying on the West Coast after the game that they had up in Fresno. It's just more cost effective, efficient. Just keep everybody out here. Let them keep acclimating to California. They're working out at the Dallas Cowboys summer camp facility. Pretty cool place, actually, for a team to practice. So Coach Riley was asked about his relationship with Coach Helton after today's practice. And I'll tell you what, this might disarm some of you Helton haters out there who are, you might be more mad at Lincoln Riley now. Just saying. But Coach Riley said, yeah, I've crossed paths with Clay Helton before, and I actually look forward to playing golf with him every offseason. There's a coach's charity event that they have there in Pebble Beach. And Coach Riley said, yeah, we got a really good relationship. I look forward to hanging out, talking with him about family, football, faith, family football. So, yeah, there's not a lot. I get why people don't like Clay Helton because of the job he did coaching USC. But you can't hate somebody when they're a good person. Hate's a really strong word. You got to save it for people you really, really hate, who have hurt you. Clay Helton hasn't done that to anybody. Not one Trojan family member was physically or emotionally hurt because of Clay Helton. I get the wins and losses. Let's just be real, okay? All right. That's all I'm going to say about that. So this is, like I said, Clay Helton also spoke with the media. This is what he had to say about his squad getting ready to play inside the Coliseum. Quote, I'm most excited for them to have this college experience. Personally, it's going to be special for me. Definitely. There's 12 years of relationships. I have so much gratitude for having been a Trojan for a decade plus, and the way the Trojan family was to me and my family and took care of us. Obviously, a lot of relationships when you're at a place for over a decade. This is special for my family. My son still lives in Southern California. My daughter's flying out from Washington, D.C. My son, who was in elementary school watching Matt Barkley and Cody Kessler and Sam Darnold and all those guys. And now he's a backup quarterback for me, and he's going to walk into the Coliseum wearing the blue and white as an Eagle. That makes me have goosebumps right now. It's unique and it's special. But you're also playing a team that put up 73 points last week, and you've got to do your job at a very high level to be able to compete with a really, really good football team, end quote. But look, the more things change, the more they stay the same. That is typical Clay Helton. And he's still a gentleman Clay. This is why the Trojan family should do the right thing Saturday when he comes out of that tunnel. Do the right thing, folks. Now, against Fresno State, this was the first time Georgia Southern has ever been in the state of California, played a game in Southern California. In fact, Coach made the comment that a few of his guys have never even been on an airplane before. So they actually led at halftime in Fresno, and then all of a sudden the wheels just kind of came off in the second half. Coach Helton thinks it's because the time that the game was played, as I mentioned, the long trip out here. I think it was just everything just kind of fell apart in the second half, whether it was because of how late it was back in Georgia and their time clocks hadn't changed yet. So that led to that second half meltdown. And it's one of the reasons why Fresno State ran for 350 yards on the ground. Yeah. USC has a chance to do that if they want. Part of that is not just because of the time change and the long trip, It's the size of Georgia Southern's defensive line. It's not very big. Okay, just not very big. I think their biggest starter is 270 pounds, and that's the guy obviously that's going to be lined up over the ball. So one thing that Coach Clay is going to do is try and get rid of some of that shock and awe for his team when they show up to the Coliseum. They're going to do a walkthrough the day before. Did you hear that, Coach Riley? They're doing a walkthrough the day before. Just saying. When you get to Purdue, think about it. Coach Riley has talked about doing things differently this year. We'll see if that's going to be part of this year's process. Just wanted to kind of throw it out there, let everybody know. So this is what Coach Helton said about doing the walkthrough. The biggest thing is when you walk into the Coliseum, it's such a place of history and tradition and honor that when you walk in there, you've got to get over the kind of shock and awe. We're actually going to go down there on Friday just to walk the stadium and let them feel what it's like. You're walking into a place that has held Olympics, World Series, Super Bowls. The Pope has blessed Mass there. Presidents have addressed the nation there. All the national championships from USC, all the great players you see. You're going to see the peristyle. You need to get that feeling, that shock and awe out. I remember being a position coach, then a coordinator, the head coach, and watching teams walk down that tunnel, and you just see their mouths drop. The first time they see it, and you say to yourself, you already have a leg up right there from the get-go, end quote. So while everybody's got that visual of Coach Helton doing because that's like a meme, jaw dropped, he is right. First time you walk down that tunnel and you soak it all in, you hear the clickety clack, you look at the walls, all the All-Americans, the national championships, and you get to the mouth of the tunnel, you look up and there's the peristyle, there's the torch, there's the field, there are the stands. It can be intimidating. So I totally understand where he's coming from. But here's the thing. He said, USC always has a leg up. I wish his teams had more than that because it didn't always work out. But his team will come out here, they'll battle, they'll compete. Bottom line, USC's roster, just going to be too much to handle. So Coach was asked, how are you going to do it? How are you going to approach and attack USC? Quote, having watched the cut-ups from last year and over the summer and then watching last week's team, this is a different football team than last year. I think it's a better personnel football team. Obviously, you're dealing with one of the more brilliant minds in college football, and Coach Riley. Coach Riley is one of those guys that gets the best players the ball, and he finds ways to be able to put them out in space, and he did that last week. It was just really impressive. I think anytime you put 73 points on the board, you're doing things right. They're an impressive group. We've got a huge challenge this week against them, end quote. So Coach Helton is absolutely right. They'll make some adjustments. I'm sure USC is still going to be too much for them to handle. I don't see a 60-point differential. I will be more than happy with a USC winning by 35 to 45 points. And you shake Clay Helton's hand, you say, thanks very much. Good luck the rest of the season. That's it. Time to move on. USC will be 2-0. And then they're on the road to Purdue. All right, we got one more segment to go. I got a little bit of recruiting news for you, a little update. Oop, wrong one. Let's do this one first. Let's do FanDuel. The NFL season is literally right here. It's going to start this weekend. And FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers, you can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets. And you can use that across the app. You're going to love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. You want to do a player prop bet? Great. Building a same-game parlay? Great. Even jumping in live as the action unfolds. You are ready to play. Just get on to FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Most people, they can't even name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k, properties, investments. And when you don't have a full picture, you know what? You can end up leaving money on the table. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean to easy use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel like you're in control of your money without ever touching one of those spreadsheets. Here's a fantastic feature that's going to help you save money. When I linked all of my accounts to Monarch, it immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those alone saved me money every month. I'm telling you, don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off the first year at monarchmoney.com. All you got to do is use code LOCKEDONCollege. So you're going to have to head over to wearesc.com to get the full picture, the full scoop when you're done watching this episode of Locked On USC. Scott Schrader has some really fun information on a couple of local players that are literally high priority targets, must get for USC in their 2027 recruiting class. Let's remind everybody, we're in September. Guess who still has the number one ranked recruiting class in the country? Yep, USC. But they don't have any commits in their 2027 class yet. Who's going to pop first? Who's going to be the first one? I'm going to give you a couple names. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. But these are two guys that USC wants. And they probably want them sooner than later. Get the ball rolling. Let's start with Elijah Harmon, defensive tackle from Inglewood High School. 6'3", 300 pounds. This is what I'm going to tell you. USC is the prohibitive favorite. I mean, everyone anticipates Elijah donning the cardinal and gold when it's that time. In fact, it would take a massive, huge mess up, huge mistake for him not to be a Trojan. With that said, I don't know if Elijah will be the first. He was among a handful of recruits at Saturday's game versus Missouri State. He did share a thought, one of many. Like I said, you can get the full story at wearesc.com when you're done here. He said this. This is what stood out about that game. The energy that USC played with Saturday was electric. Even in the second half, when the backups started to come in, the dominance didn't stop until the clock hit 0. They were hyped every time one of their teammates made a big play, end quote. You'll love hearing that. You love if your future prospects players are recognizing that. That's great. Because it lets them know, hey, you know what? I can play as a freshman. USC plays freshmen. So even though USC is considered the school to beat, Elijah, he doesn't have to rush his decision. When he makes it, he wants it to be for keeps. This was another quote that he offered. When I commit, I don't want to flip 3 or 4 times, hit the transfer portal. I've got to make sure that's where I want to be for the next 4 years. I love that he said 4 years also. You hear guys saying, for my next 3 years. Okay. So he had a couple of other quotes, but again, you have to go read those over at wearesc.com. And if you're not a subscriber, tell you what, if you need $1, let me know. Right now, you can do it for $1. And if you're watching this episode of Locked On USC, this show is free. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'm going to give you a second. Go ahead. See that red subscribe button? Click it. See that thumbs up? Smash it. Drop a comment. Let me know how much you enjoy the show. And then click that bell notification. I don't want you to miss another episode this season. There was another local recruit in 2027, must get. He's a defensive back. You've heard the name before. His name is Duve Williams. He plays at Gardena Serra. 6'2", 160 pounds. Good news, folks. Good news, Trojan fans. Steve Wiltong and a couple of others, actually. They've thrown their crystal ball predictions at USC for him as well. He is one of those guys that you have to have. Got to have. He's good, fast, long, lean, plays the fluid hips, plays the position the way you want your cornerback to play cornerback. He was also at the USC game. Now, according to Rivals, he is considered the number 2 prospect in the entire state of California. That tells you how good he is. The number 5 cornerback in the entire country. That really tells you how good he is. And the number 28 prospect overall. Okay, I don't know. What else do you need? What more proof do you need that local product has to stay home, has to play at USC? He said this after the game. USC stands out with how the coaches connect and how they develop players for the next level. Okay, I like hearing that from recruits. So those are just a couple of guys. Head on over to wearc.com when you're done with this episode and get the full story of what's going on, as well as some other recruiting information. Here are some of the guys from the class of 2027, the 2027 cycle, who are also at the game. You had defensive back Darius Johnson. I think he was 2026. You've got Danny Lang, 2027, modern day. I talked about Elijah Harmon. Jalen Hill, another cornerback. Bosco. Dude looks like a player. He just needs to eat. Okay. Somebody just keeps shoving food down his throat. First things first. And I mentioned Duve Williams. There's also a bunch of other guys from USC's 2026 class, the number 1 ranked class in the country. I know Deshaun Rideau, pretty much anybody from Southern California, they were there. And they're having a good time. All right, you know what? I'm done having a good time for this episode. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode, having a great time with you folks. But Locked On, the Locked On Network, got another big thing for you got to check out. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV presents College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll from Locked On Big 12, he heads the conversation. And you got sitting on the studio with him, 2-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson. You also have former college football star, Jesse Colley, as well as some of the local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. So make sure you check that out. Let me know what you think. Again, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.